Yeah. So speaking of the of manufacturing, so what's going on with Germany now?
I mean, it's a great topic. I don't know, Mike. Do you want to take that one?
Well, they got their approval. They've been waiting for weeks for the final approval on Giga Berlin, and it's official. It's like a live breeding factory now that can ship. So some interesting things, uh, not just for Berlin, but let me get my notes up here so I can quote it correctly. Um, Estimated sales for EVs global market is about 3.2 million EVs. That's for 2022. This is what Giga Berlin will be contributing to. 30% of that will be Europe. So I suspect that Giga Berlin is going to be contributing a lot to the new EV market there. I mean, just crank it out. And what they're saying is that's up 37% from 2021 sales.
Nice.
So, and yeah, I mean, I've heard rumors that Tesla is already looking at alternate sites in China. They've got Shanghai and they've got other sites, and they're already trying to figure out where they can put more sites. So they're not slowing down.
Yeah, I imagine that might even be optimistic of an estimate with all the stuff going on with Russia and oil and other things. The oil prices are going up. You might have a larger pool of consumers looking for EVs.
Last week, or the last podcast, our first podcast, light crude, the benchmark for a barrel of oil was $99. As of today, the benchmark was 115 US for the same oil. So yeah, it's taken quite a hit in the last week or so.
And Germany agreed to pause on that pipeline, right, from Russia. And
they did. They did, which is huge. That's a huge change for them.
So it should be a thing of national pride for them to get that Tesla plant up and running and get those cars out the door.
Now, just to flip things slightly, North America EV sales Q3 179,000 units. That's up 63% from last year same time. So wow. The U.S. market is really exploding, and quite frankly, I'm betting on everything I've read. It's because of gas. I mean, gas is at $5.65 or so an average in California right now per gallon. San Bernardino down here in Southern California has got the highest gas. And people start hitting that pain point when you go into the gas station and you fill up your SUV that's got a 28 gallon tank and you're paying close to $6 a gallon. That hurts.
Indeed.
It's one way to get someone's attention to an EV, and the fact that you can pay, at least here in Southern California, with Southern California Edison, you can pay as low as 17 cents a kilowatt hour, which makes for a pretty cheap refill.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, the likelihood of the EV market slowing down is nil. I mean, it's just going to keep growing and growing at this rate. I don't know. I'm really curious to see what the quality of the output coming out of the Berlin factory, because it's almost, I think one of the benefits of having these different factories, these different plants from Tesla, is it's almost becomes competitive to see how the quality output could be between different sites, and how things that are working well in one site can be brought to another site to improve quality overall. And I've lived in Germany. I've worked in Germany. I know that they have a lot of pride in their manufacturing and engineering. They really care about quality control. I didn't work in automotive when I was there. I worked in medical devices and then also semiconductor. And they really strive for that process control, that quality control. So I don't know. I'd be pretty happy probably to get a car coming out of Berlin, but sadly they don't make Model S flats.
maybe the Model 2. Maybe the Model 2 will come out there.
Model 2.
Yeah. I mean, I worked in optics, and the best, most complicated, also most expensive, but highest tolerance manufactured stuff came from Germany. So we'll see. That should be exciting. We've already heard good things about the Shanghai plant.
Yeah, the Shanghai plant's gotten high marks across the board.
Yeah, to get out.
Hopefully, Giga Texas will do well as well.
Well,
Now that those vehicles are shipping.
I mean,
That's
on
right.
the flip side of that, then what's the issue, with Fremont? Like, it's so many variability and panel gaps and other things. I mean, I know when I got my Model 3, I spent maybe about an hour going over it in terms of and a bunch of little things I just decided I could live with, and some other things that they fixed. And I've helped some other friends with their deliveries, because it's just one of the things if I recommend a Tesla to somebody, I'm like, okay, well, let me show up when you get it and help you go over it, and help you advocate for things that you think should be fixed and try to like actually get them fixed.
Do you think it's a question of scale that the California plant just can't crank out the number of cars they're trying to do and maintain quality?
Scale? I don't know, man. I'm not sure what their process is that they have, that there's essentially some variability. I think it must be like the panels, right? Are they being put on by, I mean, I know there are a lot of machines doing a lot of stuff, but, I don't know, door alignment is some of the stuff by hand, and they're just trying to be faster and they don't check it as well, or
I mean, some of it's certainly by hand, like the assembly of the door and all that, because they have to, when they put the glass in and when they do like to get the motors through. Monroe just did a really great teardown where they could see it, and some of it absolutely has to be done by hand just because of how it's manufactured, or how the parts are made. But
I would think hanging the door on the pillar is an automatic process.
Probably.
So
I don't know, but I would assume
how do we get the door wrong?
Right.
If you're hanging it with a robot.
Certainly, a lot of the things they're able to adjust by hand, right? They fix them, right?
Yeah.
I think a problem is that they don't bother properly fixing them before they deliver them. I mean, some percentage of people aren't going to
get it out the door
and just But how about maybe it goes back to you're saying hire people, and they need to hire people. Yeah, maybe hire some people, and actually spend more time on that QA instead of leaving it up to the customer.
I mean, I'm sure they have a QA group that is looking at cars. They probably, I would assume, take a lot of pride in the work that they're doing. It's just a matter of they probably can't look closely enough at all the cars, the rate that they're manufacturing at the plant. So if I had to guess, I'd probably agree with Mike that they just need to hire more QA people to do that job. Or maybe they see it, and like you said, it could be a lot of people won't notice, so it's cheaper not to bother.
If you continue with it, though, then there's the whole service issue, and it's like, okay, well, do you just hire more people so that we have better service?
Sure.
Better service, better QA before it goes out the door.
Sure.
Because I helped a friend. There was a delivery of a Model Y, and the other thing is, Tesla changes stuff quite often, which is great. But one problem was, I guess in the process of putting the door in or something, they scratched the leather on the door. Okay, and their solution to that was, okay, they just put a new door panel in. Okay, great. You get a new door panel, and this was that delivery was, I guess, around the end of a quarter. And it was amazing how like the delivery specialist when they got it was really rude because they're just trying to get the cars out, and he was kind of like take it or leave it so they can keep moving to the next guy. Yeah. And I'm like, well, we're gonna take our time on this delivery, and I felt kind of bad, because I said they should get this car, and I'm helping them deliver, and the actual Tesla representative was very impatient. But anyway, they took delivery, but there were a bunch of things, and so I helped advocate for the things that needed to be fixed. And so the guy that we took it to after the fact, and they lived close to the factory, so we went to the delivery center. And we worked on that delivery, and it was on getting the things taken care of. So so there was a scratch in the door. They on the door panel, on the interior. They replaced that, but somehow in that time, in those few weeks, they had changed the door panel. right?
Oh man.
And so the left-hand side doesn't match the right-hand side. And it's like, oh man, and it was kind of embarrassing, really. So like the button, for example, to open the door, prior is just a kind of a dash, and I had this issue with passengers. They don't know how to open the door.
Right,
Like, what's this button? It just has a little lighted dash. Well, wisely, they changed it to something that looks like a door opening, right? And so, so they have that on one side, and the other side has the dash. And
Oops.
so and there are also issues with, there are some, the liner around the door, the gasket that needed to be replaced. And so the new gasket is much, much thicker. And so, the rear door on the left side closes different than the rear door on the right side because it's just a completely different gasket. And now, do you go back and say, well, can you change the other one too?
Right.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the other one. It's just different.
It's within spec, is what it is.
Yeah,
it's within spec, what they say.
That's a dirty sentence.
Yeah, I mean, I will say though, I've read on TMC forums, sounds like they are improving quality overall. Like, it seems to be newer deliveries don't seem to have as many problems. The alignment and fit issues, they still exist. I don't want to say that they don't exist, but it sounds like they have gotten better. I'm looking forward to seeing how my new one looks. If it has, I have the whole checklist.
I would be interested in looking at the numbers and saying, all right, how's fit and finish out of California? How's fit and finish out of Texas? How's fit and finish out of Shanghai? And see if there's actually a comparison between greenfield factory building versus something that was recycled.
How much do you think, I just want to ask you guys in general, how much do you think like the quality of the car that comes out has to do with the local culture as opposed to, whatever manufacturing processes?
I think it's very important.
It depends. Think about it. If you've got robot assembly, robots don't care where they are. There's no local culture with a robot.
For example, I just tend to think in China, I don't think the Tesla customer in China, I don't think would accept the kind of things that we see, right? Or at least I've seen in cars being delivered. And I remember the first person that took delivery of a Tesla, a Model S in China. I mean, to us it sounds ridiculous, but he got the car and he immediately smashed the windshield. Right? And that sounds ridiculous. You just got this thing you've been waiting for and you just smashed the windshield. You're an idiot and you're having a temper tantrum or whatever. That's culturally how we might look at it, but from his point of view, and maybe it makes more sense within the local culture, is that I was expecting this car and it came months later than I was supposed to get it. And this is a way of expressing my dissatisfaction in a very, public way. And that's what he did. I mean, of course, he had to go pay for it to get fixed, but it sort of shows that, okay, you were sold something, and one of the promises was that you're going to get it at a certain time, and that promise wasn't upheld, and Tesla didn't give him a discount or do anything for him getting it late. So you would think similarly, okay, I get this car and my panel gaps are a mess or whatever, what would they accept there? And similarly, and I would think, Europeans might expect a level of quality, right? So
yeah, I mean, I think it certainly depends on the individual, but you're right. Culturally, there's things. I mean, what you just said reminds me of Elon throwing the ball bearing at the Cybertruck and shattering the windshield or the window on the driver's side, which is fantastic. Don't do it a second time. Apparently, was the lesson there. But I don't know so I've lived in the U.S. And did manufacturing also in Europe and in Asia. And my impression of working with folks in those various cultures is that there's a huge difference, and the output of what they produce is very different. Now, if you have good manufacturing processes and you have good things in place, you can come out with a product that essentially is the same thing. So to the consumer, it doesn't matter.
I mean, Honda and Toyota have done it for years, building cars here in the States.
Exactly. Yeah. So exactly. So I don't want to say it's not possible to do. However, the way in which you get there is different. So for what I've seen is to make the same product in the US to make it in Germany or France, which I was lived in both, or in like Taiwan, Singapore, Japan. It's very different processes that cause you to get the same output. And so anyway, so I definitely think it's different. But to your point, the expectation is probably different. I think Americans may not express themselves in the same way that someone. But even in China, it's probably different, right? Someone in China that can afford to buy a Tesla is probably not the same as someone, you know, that wouldn't afford to buy a Tesla. I'd say. I don't know the numbers here. Mike, I should have asked you. You probably have them on hand. But I mean, I'm just curious, like, for, you know, standard GDP and the populace, like, you know, is it, you know, in one could argue middle class in the U.S. could afford a Tesla, not maybe an S or an X or certainly not a Roadster. But like, can middle class in China afford a Tesla? I have no idea. I don't know what that is. Or is it like a different level of their, you know, their society?
Depends what you call middle class, but certainly, certainly within China, they have a relatively new and very much growing middle class. You know, fewer people are, you know, on the farms, and they're moving to the cities, and you know, China is an economic powerhouse and growing. So there certainly is a growing middle class. I'm not sure that middle class is necessarily say, oh, this is a middle class that can afford a Tesla, though.
Right. So I'm curious, Mark, how was yours? You had a 3. Like, how was your fit and finish? Did you have to go over a lot?
So yeah, so with me, the first one, my first one was in March 2020, and it was one of the few cars made on the line before they shut down for Corona, for COVID, and I was very nervous about that. But so when I got it, I was very pleased to see that it had no issues, and because I just suspected it was going to throw it together and to get out of there. But it really,
it's shocking to me.
Really
I would
nice.
have thought the same.
Yeah. And then I just got my recent one here this past Sunday, the 28th of February, and again, it was delivered. It was no problems, no gaps. You know, I mean, I've been watching all these videos. You know, I didn't take a ruler out, but just eyeballed everything, and the quality and the fit and finish was really nice. I also want to say that throughout this whole process of getting the car, waiting for it to be built, I frequented the waiting rooms on the TMC forums, mostly the performance, but I did dip into the long range and the standard one. And the majority of people that I saw or read had no issues with them. There were a few that had some major issues. They weren't like a thing. They're like a major, like the door wouldn't close. You know, I saw those.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it wouldn't close all the way. You know, they had to like slam it to close it.
Push it, yeah.
You know, but the majority of them seemed to be really confident and comfortable with the way it was. And because of people are so concerned about the fit and finish, we've seen the videos, we've seen the topics about them. People were literally spending like time looking around. So I think because of the forum and because of people mentioning this, you know, for prior bills, it gave people that education to say, okay, I know what to look for, and they would have a checklist of things to look for. So I think it's getting better.
I definitely have a checklist. I'm probably going to bring out some calipers just to mess with them. I'm not going to. I don't plan on you, but I just want to see his face when he goes, "Oh, let's look at the car."
You know,
this goes down to a tenth of a micron.
They got gap sticks you can buy. You know. Take your gap stick and do the panel body.
You know, what was the commercial?
Right, exactly.
So what was the commercial? They used to roll the marble down the panel.
Oh, right.
That was
I remember that.
That was Infinity.
It's back in the day. So there's something else I want to mention about the Model 3 performance specifically, and this was on the forums a lot, on the TMC forums, is that people were concerned about the performance model not being lowered as the long range was, and they thought that Tesla removed whatever suspension features they did to make the car lower, and it was a big cause of concern for a lot of people in the forums. So what I did in my non-scientific way was when I saw those, I still had my 2020 Model 3 performance, so I took a measuring tape and measured it from the ground to the fender, and it was and I say this, it had the old performance tire, which was a PS4, Michelin PS4, and then
Mm-hmm.
the old performance wheel. Now they got the new Ubertine. So when I got my new car and it had the P0s, the Pirelli P0s with the Ubers on it, what I noticed was the gap was much bigger from the tire to the wheel well. But that was because how the tire rolls. They like stretch the tire onto the rim, and so it gives it more of a gap. I was able to notice that because, again, I took measurements of my old car, and then I took measurements with my new car with the P0s. The gap was much bigger. I then went and got my PS4s put on because I prefer those, and the gap was the exact same as my 2020. So I think the majority, it's unscientific, but I think the majority of that is because of how the wheel stretches and it curves more, so there's more of a gap there. And we talked about it in the forums, and some people kind of say, yeah, that kind of makes sense. So, but I don't think that. I just wanted to say that I don't think that the in my opinion that the performance model was lower because it looks the same.
Now I'm just curious. So, being ignorant of the Model 3s, do they allow you to? Is there an air suspension where you can adjust it or no?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I figured not because that's expensive and they're trying to not raise the price.
You can buy adjustable coilovers.
Coilovers, yeah.
And that's what I would do.
Yeah.
If that's what you care about for that kind of car, you don't really want air suspension.
Sure.
You want to go in there and just put in the springs you want to get the ride you want.
Right. Yeah, I mean, now something that would concern me though, and so I like that you said you changed the tires is the road noise, right? So when you stretch the tire out like that, you don't have as much, there's not as much thickness in the rubber. You're gonna feel it a little bit depending on the car. I don't know, you'll feel it when driving, but also road noise is going to be different. So do you see that as a thing a lot of people are doing? They're swapping over their tires. They don't like the ones.
My Contis are the factory OEM. And they're pretty noisy. They've got a high level of road noise.
Mike, do you know if they have the foam inside that tire or not?
No.
Because I think that makes a difference. I think it does.
It certainly can. I agree with you. I think one of the problems though right now is just tires, with supply chain are really hard to get, especially the really sought after model tires. I did that with my previous car in December. I was ordering parts and it's like you go on the tire rack and you're like, all right, this is what I want, and they're like, cool, you won't have those for at least 6 months, and you're like, it's tire, what are you talking about? So I ended up settling on a different I settled on different tires that were like, well, okay, these will be close enough, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted. So
have you looked at the new Goodyears? They're supposed to be engineered for EVs.
I saw that. Yeah,
I saw them. I didn't look at them closely. I don't know what makes them EV special. So
yeah, I haven't found any real hard information on it yet.
That sounds like a marketing gimmick.
They're claiming. I mean, they can claim anything, but the fact they're even claiming it's specific for EVs says how far the market's come.
I mean, a lower rolling resistance would be good for any car, right?
Well, but a lower rolling resistance tends to be a harder rubber, which makes less traction. So It's not something you want to go playing on the skid pad with.
No, I mean, so that trade-off exists, again, for whichever car.
It exists everywhere.